What I'd like you to do, we'll start over with Selena, and I'd like you to just tell a little bit about yourself, why you were interested in being a part of this program, and then the first question for everybody is, what did you learn in the training that really helped prepare you for this experience?
Well, my name is Selena. I'm a junior and I'm in band. And when we were at a Tri-M meeting at our induction ceremony, actually, Mr. Staley showed us this video of a senior named Henry, and he had very late stage Alzheimer's and wasn't able to articulate himself properly. And once they gave him the music, then he started dancing and singing along, and it was just amazing to see like the impact that music had on him. And I think myself personally and a lot of us were kind of moved by that and really wanted to be able to have that experience for ourselves, to see someone in that position. And that's kind of what spurred me to join the Music and Memory program. And the training was a few weeks. We met after school for about like an hour each time. And each time Mr. Staley would tell us different things about dementia, the different types of it. And one thing that really helped me understand the seniors a lot more was we had a guest speaker come in who worked with seniors very frequently. And she told us how to interact with them and how to be patient with them and what to expect in our different sessions. Yeah.
My name's Elena. I'm in choir and orchestra at Nikwa. Besides the video, which we all saw at the induction ceremony, I think the thing for me that really made me want to do it was that my grandfather, about 2 years ago, he was diagnosed with dementia and Parkinson's, and we've kind of seen that take a toll on his life, and he hasn't quite been the same ever since, and it's an incurable disease, so it kind of gets worse every year. So I wanted to see if there's anything in this whole music therapy, just if these playlists could really make a difference in people's lives. Through our program, the training program we did, I think the most important thing that I got out of the whole training session, all the training sessions, was that before, when you look at people with dementia or Parkinson's, when you interact with them, a lot of times, because you're on the outside, you don't really understand what's going on through their head. It's easy to become impatient or kind of just get fed up with them, and you just are disappointed, especially like with my grandfather. We just wanted him to be his old self and stuff. But once we learned about everything going on behind them and how they want to be the person they were just as much as you want them to be, then it kind of makes you kind of a lot more empathic towards them, and it helps you deal with them with a lot more patience.
Hi, my name is Nilesh. The reason I joined this initiative was because I've always wanted to help people in whatever way I could. As a child, I spent many Saturdays at Feed My Starving Children, pouring soy into the little containers. Lots of fun. But I never had an opportunity to directly interact with the people that I was helping. I always knew that the food I was packing would go somewhere, or that the money I was donating would help somebody eventually, but I never truly got to be able to look into somebody's eyes and see the impact that something that the work that I had put in changed somebody's life in a meaningful way. Tri-M truly gave me that opportunity. When I first heard about this entire program, I was very excited. I remember emailing Mr. Staley at, I think, midnight, 1 a.m., somewhere there, jumping at the opportunity to be able to do something to really help our community. The training that Tri-M and Mr. Staley has provided me really helped me be able to connect with not only dementia patients and Alzheimer patients, but also with other people just throughout life. He taught us how to see the world from another person's perspective, even if we physically cannot understand what it is like. If I had gone into my sessions with Tom being unprepared, I really don't think this would have been a productive experience at all. the training that Mr. Staley provided me really allowed me to help Tom in a very, very real and tangible way that I wouldn't have been able to do had I not been given this opportunity.
Hi, my name is McKenna, and I'm a junior, and I'm in band. And what really got me interested in being part of this program is my grandfather, who was diagnosed with dementia several years ago, I think probably 4 or so. But it really impacted me because, well, he lives in Arizona, so we would only get to see him once a year. And it impacted me because I would always bring my flute and I'd always play for them. And he loved it when I was able to play for him. But then when he was diagnosed and he started, to change a little bit, he became more unresponsive, and it was really taking a toll on him. And I was able to really see a difference when I was playing my music, because he'd be sitting there with his head down and he would not respond to anything someone was saying, or he wouldn't get up to do things that we were asking him to. But when I started to play songs that he recognized, usually around Christmas time, so I would play Christmas songs for him, and his head would come up and he'd start tapping his toes and nodding his head along with the music. And I just thought that was the coolest thing, that a note that you play can actually cause someone to physically react to it, and for him to be able to come alive like that was incredible for me. So I knew I had to be a part of this program to impact more lives like that and to see the difference that music really makes. The training that we went through really helped because we were able to prepare ourselves in a way to not only receive what they were going to do, but to show them that music is still important in your life no matter what age you're at. And we heard a lot of stories from these people, and we were prepared to hear the stories because they had told us, they might still be in the same time frame. So if they were born in a long time ago and they had lived through a war or something, some music could bring them to a memory of a war and they might start talking about it. So we were prepared to hear stories about a war or a time that was harder, where they had lost their parents or gone through something rough, and that the music would remind them of that. And we actually, when we went in there, we heard stories of them being in the war and what it was like, so we were able to prepare for being able to receive that information.
So McKenna, you're starting on the next question already, which is great because we'll start with you, and that is, so what happened when you went in and the first week that you met your match, you're with your partner and you're interviewing them and you're getting enough information so we can make a playlist for them. So we make the playlist, and you saw everybody saw Loretta's reaction to the posting of Mac the Knife as the first one. That's a hit. We know that worked. But what was the reaction? What happened? What did you witness when just tell us what happened when you introduced the playlist.
So I worked with Barbara along with Selena, and we didn't receive so much physical reactions to the music because she is highly functional and she is only there a couple days a week. We were able to hear her stories of what the music reminded her of. So she told us how she was sitting in her room with this big radio set that had just come out, and it was brand new and it was the newest thing, and she thought it was so cool, and it had however many stations, and she would turn the channel, and she told us about how she would sit on the floor and just listen to the radio for hours, and that these songs would bring back memories of that. So it was cool to hear her point of view of these songs, and just to see these memories that come back just because of these songs that we play for her. It was really cool. And I'll let you guys talk about the physical reactions I worked with Barrett, with Elena, you can talk about that, but with Loretta, to be able to actually stand up and start dancing was so fun to watch, and she was singing along, and she was making whoop sounds, oh my, it was so exciting just to see the physical reaction to being able to hear something that they maybe haven't heard in a long time, just to bring back those memories is really cool.
Yeah, so when I was interviewing Tom, one song that he mentioned over and over and over again was the song Joey, Joey, Joey. He did that at least 10 times throughout our interview, and I was very confused as to why. But I knew it was a song, and it had something to do with Broadway in New York. So I went home, I did some Googling, and I found out that it was a song from a Broadway musical. I can't recall the name, but it was, a musical that was very popular at the time. So, I put that in to my email to Mr. Staley, and when we got our playlist, he made sure that was the first song on our list. Right before I gave Tom the headphones and had him start listening to music, we were trying to have a conversation, and Tom has frontal lobe aphasia. So he has an inability to string words words together into coherent sentences. So his speech would be very choppy and would jump from idea to idea very quickly. And this would frustrate him greatly, especially since he knew what he wanted to say and how he wanted to say it, but he was unable to put the words together and express himself. So right before we put the headphones on, he was getting very, very frustrated that he couldn't talk about what he was doing when he was a kid. And he wanted to talk about high school, but it just wasn't coming to him. And so, I sort of led the conversation to, let's relax, let's listen to some music together. As soon as the music started playing, Tom's expression went from angry to just overjoyed, and tears were welling up in his eyes. It was truly one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. He immediately was moved by this music, and he just sat there and listened to it, and he was singing along and moving his arms until the whole song was over. And right after he listened to the music, he started telling me the story of how he and his wife went to this Broadway musical many, many years ago. It was shortly after they got married. And they went to this Broadway musical, and they were watching, and the actor who sang this song was a big guy, like 6'2", I remember. And he remembered. And he was telling me that they saw this man, and he looked very scary during that song. And they remember being very frightened, and then shortly afterwards walking into the convenience store and seeing the actor who played that character buying a hamburger. And they got to meet him. And it was one of the most vivid memories he had with his wife that was still there. And that was truly powerful, because the three words that he could remember without hearing the music, it was one of the best memories he had left of being with his wife right after they got married. It must have been one of the happiest days of his life. And being able to hear him express that was truly, really incredible.
So the man I worked with, his name was Barrett, and when we first started interviewing him, he was very soft-spoken, very reserved. He was kind of hard to draw out a little bit at first, so we're asking him about his life, like where he was born, where he grew up, what his job was. So he started his own like engineering firm or something, and he had manned it for like 30 years, and it sounded really interesting. So I was asking him about it. He's like, oh yeah, that's just my business. And he's like, but you know what I really like to do? I was in the church choir for 35 years. So then that really got him talking when he started talking about all these different hymns he liked. He remembered like he could name the lyrics to so many different church hymns that he had sung with his choir. He talked about his experience traveling with them to Carnegie Hall and like all these other things that we had tried to draw out of him before. None of that really stuck with him. What stuck with him was the time that he spent in his church choir, which I thought was really cool. So then the next session, we brought his playlist, put the headphones in and everything, and I didn't really know what to expect because it was a bunch of church hymns, so I didn't know if there'd be much of a physical reaction. But actually, he did start dancing as soon as we put on the headphones. Nothing like super extreme, but he was like bouncing along with the music. He was smiling. He was getting really into it. So just seeing him go from being kind of like placid, stone-faced, all of a sudden his eyes lit up and he was really happy and into it, that I think was like the magical moment for me. And it's funny because it's called Alive Inside, and they're obviously referencing the elders because they come alive, but I think all of us, when we watch them, we come alive too because we're kind of reciprocating all the emotions that they're feeling, and just like this joy that they have, it kind of rubs off on us too. So I think that was one of my favorite moments watching that. Another thing that he did was I told him I was in choir, and we talked about how much we loved choir and all that for a while. So then he gave me, the next visit, he had printed me out one of his favorite hymns, and he was like, "You have to take this to your choir director. You have to sing this at your school. This is the best hymn." So that was another really moving moment for me. And it was so cool that we were able to connect with something, even though we were so different in age, much different walks of life, very different experiences, but we both like had this connection with the music and with being in choir and loving to sing and all this stuff. And he asked me like, "Could you read music? Can you sing this with me?" So we like sang a little bit of it together. So just having that experience, it was just really touching.
Yeah, I got to work with McKenna and Barbara, and I also got to work with another senior named Frank. And when we went to give Frank his headphones, he generally talked like quite a bit. Previously, he used to actually be a musician, and he told us at the last visit about how he would always play with his band and like how those were the best times of his life. And then the directors of the senior center told us about how sometimes they would just put him at the piano or the drums and he'd just start playing. So he had a background with music, but he hadn't really listened to many of like the older songs recently. So when we did give him his headphones, we weren't really sure what to expect, but as soon as he put them on, his face just lit up just like all of these other people. And then at first he was singing along and he was really excited, and then he took off his headphones and started talking to us, but then he just put them right back on because he just wanted to listen to the music. He did that like 10 times in a row, and it was really exciting to watch. And then finally, after a little while, he took off the music and he started just talking, and it was kind of hard to understand what he was saying, but it was something about how he believed that music wasn't meant to be heard, but it was meant to be felt with the soul, and that everyone should experience music and that it should be integral in everyone's life. And just listening to him and how passionate he was really amazing. And then when we told him that he got to keep the headphones, he started crying and he was like, "I don't know how to thank you guys." And it was just a really amazing moment. And I think my partner and I were both just extremely moved, and we couldn't stop smiling.
That's great. And you know, when you have an opportunity to meet a stranger and you know you're going to talk about something you both enjoy, I mean, what subject could you pick other than music that you're absolutely certain that you're going to have something to talk about? So it's an icebreaker before you even get there. But we weren't quite sure. I mean, you never know how it's going to go. And so I was thinking, how much time should we plan? And I think Nilesh would still be there because we were all on the bus. But it was great to see how connected they became so quickly, even before the music, even before we brought the music, because the first week was interview. And so your stories are just phenomenal, and I want to thank you. So.